Welcome back to Developer Roadmaps. In our last explainer, we got into the weeds with textual tags, how to give words actual meaning. So let's place the next checkpoint on our roadmap. How do we take all that content and organize it into logical, structured sections?
All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the why. Why we even need to structure our content. Then we'll get our hands on the essential containers for the job, learn how to slap some labels on them, and we'll finish up by adding a couple of advanced attributes to your developer toolkit.
So, you've got your text, right? But a web page is so much more than just a wall of words. It's got to have sections, sidebars, headers, you name it. The real challenge is, how do we group all these related things together to create a layout that actually makes sense?
And that's where containers come into play. Honestly, you can think of containers as the basic boxes and wrappers we use to organize everything on a page. These are the absolute building blocks for pretty much every website layout you've ever seen.
First up, we've got the div element. The best way to picture this is like a big, generic cardboard box. On its own, it doesn't really look like anything, but it is perfect for grouping bigger chunks of content, like an entire blog post section, so we can then style it or move it around as one single piece.
Check this out. In this little snippet, the div tag is literally acting as a container. It's wrapping the heading and both paragraphs. And just by doing that, we've given our page some real structure. We've logically grouped this content into a single block that we can now easily target.
Okay, so that's for the big stuff. What about the small stuff? Well, if a div is a big box, then the span element is like a highlighter. It's made to wrap a specific word or phrase right inside a line of text, which lets you target it without creating a whole new line or block. See how the span tags are wrapped around each ingredient in this recipe? Now, if you looked at this on a web page, it wouldn't look any different at first. The sentence just flows. But under the hood, we just created little hooks so we can target just those words with CSS. Maybe we want to make them bold or green. Now we can.
So this is the absolute key difference. And it all boils down to how they behave by default. A div is block level. It's greedy. It takes up the full width and shoves everything else onto a new line. A span is inline. It's polite. It just sits right there in the flow of the text, only taking up the space it absolutely needs.
Okay, so we've got our boxes, but right now they're all just plain brown cardboard boxes. How do we tell the browser, hey, I want this specific box to be red, or make that group of highlighted words blue? Well, we need to give them labels, and in HTML, we do that with attributes.
Our first label is the ID attribute. Think of this like a unique serial number for an element. And just like a serial number, any single ID value can only be used once on a page. That makes it the perfect tool when you need to pinpoint one and only one specific item.
So here's how you'll see it in the wild. In your HTML, you just add the ID right inside the tag. Then in your CSS, you target it using that hashtag or #. And in JavaScript, there's a super fast method made just for this, get element by ID. Just remember that golden rule, an ID has to be totally unique on the page. But wait, what if you want to apply the same style to multiple things? You can't use an ID for that, and that's exactly where the class attribute comes in. A class is like a reusable category tag. Think of it like putting a fragile sticker on a bunch of different boxes that all need to be handled the same way. In this example, we're giving two different paragraphs the same highlight class. In our CSS, we can target everything with that class by using a dot. And check this out. On that second highlighted paragraph, we've given it two classes. You can just separate them with a space. This is an incredibly powerful way to mix and match styles.
So let's nail this down once and for all. ID is for one unique thing, and you select it with a hashtag. Class is for grouping many things, and you select it with a dot. Getting this difference is absolutely fundamental to writing clean, professional code.
All right, we've totally covered the basics of grouping and labeling. Now let's level up and look at two more advanced attributes that give us even more fine-grained control over our elements.
Sometimes you need to store a little piece of extra information on an element. It's not for styling, it's for your JavaScript code to use later. That's what data-attributes are for. They're basically like hidden sticky notes you can attach to an element, holding custom information that your scripts can read whenever they want.
The whole process is really simple. First, in your HTML, you add an attribute that starts with data dot, followed by whatever name you want. Then in your JavaScript, you can grab that element and access all its data attributes through a handy property called dataset. And it even cleans the name for you.
Notice how data user ID in HTML magically becomes user ID in your script. Super convenient.
Okay, last one for today, the style attribute. This is a special attribute that lets you write CSS rules directly inside an HTML tag. It's the most direct way possible to apply a style to a single element, and you'll often see it used for quick tests or for styles that are generated by JavaScript.
So here, you can see we're setting the color and font size right inside the p tag itself. This is what we call inline styling. It's fast, it's easy, and honestly, it works. But it comes with a pretty big warning label.
And don't just take my word for it. This is a crucial piece of advice for any developer. The official documentation from MDN, the Mozilla Developer Network, says it loud and clear. It's best practice to keep your styles in separate CSS files. It keeps your HTML clean, and it makes your styles reusable and way easier to manage down the road.
All right, let's take a quick breath. We've just covered how to group our content with containers and how to target those containers with labels. This is the absolute foundation you need to build any kind of well-structured web page.
So, what's next on our roadmap? We're going to take all these ideas about structure and organization and apply them to two of the most important ways we display information on the web: lists and tables. So, let's quickly recap what's now in your developer toolkit. You've got div and span for creating containers, you have ID for unique labels and class for reusable ones, and you've got data attributes for adding custom info. Mastering these concepts is absolutely key to building professional, scalable websites.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you join us for the next one, where we will get into lists and tables. This is Developer Roadmaps. Map your path, build your career.